In the most sacred moment of a woman's life, when she should have been living her dream of eternal love, Sophia discovered the cruelest truth anyone could hear, but her revenge would change everything forever. The mirror reflected a radiant bride. Sophia adjusted her veil for the 10th time, her hands trembling slightly, not from nervousness, but from pure happiness. After 5 years of dating, the day had finally come for her to become the wife of Daniel, the man she had met in college and who had won over not only her heart, but her entire family. "You look beautiful, my daughter," whispered Beatrice, her mother, as she adjusted the pearl necklace that had belonged to Sophia's grandmother. "Daniel is a lucky man." Sophia smiled, feeling her heart race. In a few minutes, she would walk down the aisle of the Divine Providence Chapel, towards the altar where Daniel awaited her. Everything was perfect. The dream dress, the hand-picked flowers, the arriving guests, the soft music echoing through the sacred space. "I need to use the restroom quickly before the ceremony starts," Sophia told her mother. "Can you check if everything is all right with the bridesmaids?" Beatrice nodded and left the small annex room of the chapel where Sophia was preparing. Alone, she took a deep breath, looking at herself in the mirror one last time. "This is the happiest day of my life," she murmured to herself. That's when she heard male voices coming from the side garden of the chapel. She immediately recognized Daniel's laugh. Curious and with a smile on her lips, she approached the half-open window, imagining he was nervously talking to his groomsmen. What she heard next destroyed her world in seconds. "Dude, are you sure you want to do this?" It was the voice of Andrew, Daniel's best friend since childhood. "Marrying for money won't work out forever." Daniel laughed, but it was a bitter laugh Sophia had never heard before. "Andrew, I tried to love her for real, but I can't. Sophia is, I don't know, too simple for me, too naive." Sophia felt as if a dagger had pierced her chest. Her legs began to tremble. "Then why are you doing this, man?" asked another groomsman. "Philip, you know her father, Dr. Robert Miller. The guy owns the Blue Horizon Medical Network, the most prosperous healthcare chain in the city. Sophia will inherit all that one day," Daniel said with a coldness that made Sophia's blood run cold. "Besides, she loves me so much she does whatever I want. It's convenient." "But what about Luna?" Andrew asked quietly. Sophia's heart stopped. "Luna? What Luna?" "Luna is the woman I really love," Daniel confessed, and his words sounded like a death sentence in the bride's ears. "She always was, but she doesn't have money. She doesn't have an influential family. Sophia has all that. I'm going to get married, secure my future, and continue with Luna discreetly." "This is messed up, Daniel," Philip murmured, clearly uncomfortable. "It's real life, Philip. Sophia will never suspect. She idolizes me too much. And once I inherit part of my father-in-law's business, I'll have total freedom." Daniel laughed again. The best of both worlds. Financial security with Sophia and true love with Luna. Sophia staggered away from the window, her legs barely able to support her. The white dress that minutes before represented purity and happiness now felt like a shroud. Tears began to stream down her face, smudging her carefully applied makeup. 5 years. 5 years of her life dedicated to a man who saw her only as an investment. All the declarations of love, all the plans for the future, all the promises whispered on romantic nights, all lies. Her hands trembled so much she could barely hold the bouquet. The scent of white roses, which once brought her joy, now made her nauseous. How could she have been so blind? How could she not have noticed the signs? She remembered the times Daniel canceled dates at the last minute, the strange phone calls he answered in another room, the way he avoided talking about the future in detail. It all made sense now, the work meetings that stretched late, the business trips that sprang up out of nowhere, the weekends he said he needed to be alone to think about his life. The door opened, and Beatrice entered, radiant. "Sophia, darling, it's time. The groomsmen are already in position." "Oh my goodness, what happened? Are you crying?" Sophia quickly wiped away her tears, trying to recompose her makeup. "It's nothing, Mom. Just tears of happiness." But inside, a devastating storm was brewing. The naive, infatuated Sophia had died in those few minutes. In her place emerged a woman who had discovered the cruelest truth at the most sacred moment of her life. "Are you sure you're okay? We can delay a few minutes if you need to touch up," Beatrice offered, concerned about her daughter's state. Sophia took a deep breath, looking at herself in the mirror once more. An idea began to form in her mind. Daniel thought she was too naive to discover his lies, that she would do whatever he wanted without questioning, that she would be just a convenient wife while he lived his great love with another. He was about to find out how wrong he was. "No, Mum, I'm perfect, Sophia said. Her voice now carried a cold determination that even Beatrice found strange. Let's go. This wedding will be unforgettable. For the first time in her life, Sophia felt a pure, crystal-clear rage coursing through her veins. It wasn't just betrayal, it was complete humiliation. Daniel had turned her into a joke for his friends, a business opportunity, a means to achieve his financial goals. The chapel doors opened, and the chords of the wedding march echoed through the sacred space. Sophia began to walk down the aisle, her veil fluttering behind her like the wings of an avenging angel. Guests rose, all admiring her radiant beauty, but Sophia saw nothing beyond the man waiting for her at the altar. Daniel smiled, perfectly playing the role of the adoring groom. His impeccable tuxedo, his clean-shaven face, his eyes sparkling with false emotion. Everything about him was a carefully constructed lie. Dr. Robert Miller, her father, held her arm with pride, whispering words of affection that she could barely hear. Her ears buzzed with the cruel words she had heard minutes before. It's convenient. She idolizes me. She'll never suspect. Each step towards the altar was a decision. Sophia could stop right there, reveal everything in front of all the guests, create a scandal that would destroy not only Daniel, but also her own reputation and that of her family. Or she could be smarter. She reached the altar, and her father placed her hand in Daniel's, who squeezed it with a false gentleness she now recognized. You look beautiful, he murmured just for her to hear. Thank you, Sophia replied. Her voice was soft, as always, but her eyes held something Daniel couldn't interpret. The priest began the ceremony. Dear guests, we are gathered here on this sacred day to celebrate the union of Sophia and Daniel in matrimony. Sophia listened to every word as if in a trance. Beside her, Daniel maintained a perfect posture, smiling at the guests, portraying the happy groom. But she knew the truth. She knew that behind that smile was a calculating man who saw her only as a stepping stone to climb in life. If anyone knows of any impediment to this union, speak now or forever hold your peace, declared the priest. Total silence in the chapel. Sophia felt all eyes on her and Daniel. This was the moment. She could speak. She could expose everything right then and there. But she didn't, because there was something much better reserved for Daniel, something he would never expect from his convenient and naive bride. Daniel, do you take Sophia as your lawful wife, to love and cherish, in joy and sorrow, in sickness and in health, until death do you part? I do, Daniel answered with conviction, looking into Sophia's eyes with a falseness that made her feel nauseous. Sophia, do you take Daniel as your lawful husband, to love and cherish, in joy and sorrow, in sickness and in health, until death do you part? Sophia looked deeply into Daniel's eyes. For a moment, she saw not the man who had loved her for 5 years, but the stranger who had betrayed her in the most cowardly way possible. A man who was willing to live a lie for the rest of his life, using her as a ladder to success. I do, she said, her voice firm and clear, but in her mind, she completed the sentence very differently. I accept that you underestimated me. I accept that you made the biggest mistake of your life, and I accept that you will pay for it in a way you never imagined. The rings were exchanged, the kiss was given, applause echoed through the chapel. Officially, Sophia and Daniel were husband and wife. But while Daniel internally celebrated securing his financial future, Sophia was already planning how to completely destroy the life of the man who dared to play with her heart. The party had barely begun, and Daniel had no idea of the storm that was about to break over him. The wedding reception was stunning. The grand ballroom of the hotel shimmered with hundreds of golden lights. White flowers adorned each table, and guests celebrated with champagne and radiant smiles. Everything had been planned in meticulous detail by Sophia for months. Ironically, to celebrate what she now knew to be the biggest farce of her life. Sophia greeted guests with a perfect smile, receiving congratulations and warm hugs from family and friends. On the outside, she was the happiest bride in the world. Inside, every word of felicitation was like salt in an open wound. Sophia, darling, what a beautiful wedding, exclaimed Aunt Martha, one of her mother's sisters. Daniel is truly a special man. You two make a perfect couple. Thank you, Aunt Martha, Sophia replied, maintaining her practiced smile. We are very happy. But her eyes constantly searched the room for Daniel. He was on the other side, chatting animatedly with a group of friends, laughing loudly, perfectly playing the role of the newlywed and fulfilled husband. How could he act so naturally after what she had discovered? My daughter, you don't seem to be enjoying your own party. Dr. Robert Miller approached, holding 2 champagne flutes. Is everything all right? Sophia accepted the flute, forcing a more genuine smile for her father. Yes, Dad. It's just a lot of emotion, you know? 5 years of dating, and now we're married. I can hardly believe it. Daniel is a good man, Doctor, Robert said, placing a hand on his daughter's shoulder. He'll take good care of you, and I'm sure you'll build a beautiful family together. Family? The word hit Sophia like a punch to the stomach. How many times had she and Daniel talked about having children? How many times had he said he wanted a house full of kids with her? All lies, all calculated to keep the charade going. Dad, can I ask you a question? Sophia said, her voice taking on a more serious tone. Of course, my daughter. Anything. Have you ever suspected anything strange in Daniel's behavior, anything that seemed out of place? Doctor, Robert frowned, clearly surprised by the question. Why are you asking that, Sophia? Did something happen? Sophia shook her head quickly. No, it's just curiosity. You know how I am, always overthinking everything. Daniel always seemed very dedicated to you. Dr. Robert replied thoughtfully, although now that you mention it, he's been very interested in the family business lately, always asking about the Blue Horizon Medical Network, about expansions, investments. Sophia's blood boiled. Even her father had noticed Daniel's suspicious interest in the family business. But that's natural, Dr. Robert continued. After all, he's part of the family now. It's normal for him to want to get more involved. Natural. If only her father knew the truth behind that natural interest. Sophia, there you are. The cheerful voice of Patricia, her best friend since adolescence, interrupted the conversation. I need to steal the bride for photos. Doctor, Robert smiled and walked away, leaving the two friends alone. Patricia, I need to tell you something, Sophia whispered, pulling her friend to a more secluded corner of the ballroom. What is it? You've had a strange look on your face since you left the chapel, Patricia noted immediately. Did something happen? Sophia took a deep breath. Patricia was the only person in the world she trusted completely. If she was going to tell anyone, it would be her. I discovered something terrible about Daniel, Sophia began, her voice trembling. Minutes before the ceremony, I overheard him talking to Andrew and Philip in the chapel garden. What did he say? That he doesn't love me, that he's only with me for my family's money, and that he has a mistress named Luna. Patricia's face lost all color. Sophia, are you sure about what you heard? Maybe it was a misunderstanding. It wasn't a misunderstanding, Pat. I heard every word. He said, I'm convenient, that I'll never suspect because I idolize him too much, and that when he inherits part of Dad's business, he'll have total freedom to live with this Luna. Tears began to stream from Patricia's eyes. My God, Sophia, why didn't you cancel the wedding? Why did you go through with it? Sophia discreetly wiped away a tear that insisted on escaping. Because I have a plan, Pat. Daniel thinks he knows me, but he has no idea who I really am when I'm betrayed. Sophia, whatever you're thinking, don't do anything rash, Patricia warned, holding her friend's hands. Revenge is never the solution. It's not revenge, Pat. It's justice. At that moment, Daniel approached the corner where the two were talking, his smile radiant, as always. There are the two most beautiful women at the party, he said, wrapping his arm around Sophia's waist with an intimacy that now filled her with repulsion. Patricia, thank you for being such a special friend to my wife. My wife? The words came out of his mouth with a frightening naturalness. Daniel, Patricia replied coldly, something he didn't notice. Honey, your mother is looking for you for the official photos, Daniel said to Sophia. Then we need to talk about our honeymoon. I have a surprise for you. Surprise? Sophia almost laughed at the irony. The only surprise there was that she had discovered who he really was. Of course, darling, Sophia replied, giving him a kiss on the cheek that required all her willpower not to feel disgust. I'm coming. Daniel walked away to greet other guests, and Patricia grabbed Sophia's arm tightly. Sophia, I'm scared of what you might do, Patricia whispered. Promise you won't do anything crazy. Sophia looked directly into her best friend's eyes. Pat, you've known me for 15 years. Have I ever done anything without thinking about the consequences? No. Then trust me. Daniel messed with the wrong woman. The official photos began. Sophia posed next to her husband, smiling for the cameras, portraying perfect happiness. But each click was a reminder of the farce her life had become. During a break, she watched Daniel talking to Andrew and Philip near the bar. The three laughed loudly, probably celebrating the success of Daniel's plan. The rage Sophia felt was almost uncontrollable. That's when she noticed something that made her blood run completely cold. A brunette woman, elegantly dressed, had discreetly entered the ballroom. She wasn't on the guest list. Sophia knew everyone who had been invited. The woman looked for someone with her eyes, and when she found Daniel, a subtle smile appeared on her face. Luna. Sophia knew instinctively that this was the woman who had destroyed her marriage before it even began, and she had come to the party. The audacity was impressive. Daniel noticed her presence, and for a fraction of a second, Sophia saw an expression of panic cross his face. He said something quickly to Andrew and Philip and discreetly headed towards Luna. Sophia watched them from afar as they talked near the entrance of the ballroom. The conversation seemed tense. Luna gesticulated irritably, and Daniel tried to calm her down. At one point, she saw Daniel discreetly take Luna's cell phone and type something, probably his number. The situation was surreal. There she was at her own wedding reception, watching her husband exchange information with his mistress. "Sophia, darling, time for the toast," Beatrice called from across the room. Sophia instantly composed herself, walking towards the main table, where Daniel was already waiting for her with a glass in his hand. He had returned quickly, as if nothing had happened. "Dear friends and family," Daniel began his speech, his voice echoing through the silent ballroom. "This is the happiest day of my life. Sophia is not just my wife. She is my soulmate, my best friend, my lifelong companion." The guests applauded emotionally. Some people wiped tears from their eyes, touched by the romantic declaration. Sophia felt like vomiting. "Sophia has made me a better man," Daniel continued, looking directly at her, with eyes that shone with falsity. "With her, I discovered what true love is. I promised to take care of her, protect her, and love her forever." More applause, more tears of emotion from the guests. Sophia raised her glass, a pasted smile on her face. "Daniel," she began, her voice soft, but carrying something that only she and Patricia could identify. "You truly surprised me today. You showed me who you really are, in a way I never imagined possible." Daniel smiled, thinking she was complimenting him. "And I promise," Sophia continued, her eyes fixed on his, "that our life together will be exactly what you deserve." The guests erupted in applause, interpreting her words as a beautiful declaration of love, but Daniel should have paid more attention to her tone. He should have noticed the dangerous glint in her eyes. He should have realized that Sophia was no longer the naive woman he thought he knew, because the war had only just begun. The trip to the mountain resort had been a wedding gift from Sophia's parents, a paradisiacal place with private chalets surrounded by lush nature, where the newlyweds would supposedly spend the best days of their lives. For Sophia, those would be 2 weeks of pure hell disguised as paradise. On the first day, while Daniel explored the resort's facilities, Sophia took advantage of the privacy to cry all the tears she had held back during the ceremony and party. Sitting on the chalet's balcony, overlooking the mountains, she finally allowed all the pain to escape. 5 years wasted, 5 years loving a ghost, 5 years building dreams with someone who saw her only as a profitable investment. But on the second day, something changed. Sophia dried her tears, looked at herself in the mirror, and made a decision that would change everything. Daniel wanted to play, so she would play too, but by her own rules. "Honey, you're different today," Daniel commented during breakfast, noticing that Sophia was quieter than usual. "Is everything all right?" "I'm great, darling," Sophia replied, forcing a smile. "Just a little tired from the party. So many emotions yesterday." "I told you I'd have a surprise for our honeymoon," Daniel said, his eyes shining with an animation Sophia now recognized as pure falsity. "How about we go for a walk around town? I know some amazing places today." "Amazing places?" Sophia almost laughed at the irony. "Probably places he had been with Luna." "Of course, that would be great," she replied. But while Daniel got ready for the outing, Sophia did something she had never done before. She checked his phone. It wasn't hard to guess the password. It was her birthday, which made everything even more cruel and ironic. Sophia scrolled through the messages, her heart racing, looking for anything that would confirm her suspicions, and found entire conversations with Luna. Passionate love messages exchanged while Daniel was planning his wedding to Sophia. Personal photos sent the day before the ceremony. Detailed plans for how they would be together once the marriage was consummated. But the message that destroyed her the most was one sent in the early hours after the party. "Daniel, mission accomplished, my beautiful. Now we just have to wait for me to get established in the father-in-law's business, and we can be together officially. Sophia will never find out anything. Luna, I miss you. When are you coming back from the fake honeymoon?" "Daniel, 2 weeks, but it will be worth it. In a few months, I'll have total access to her family's money." Sophia sat on the bed, trembling with rage. Fake honeymoon. That's how he referred to the most important days of her life. "Sophia, are you ready?" Daniel called from the bathroom. "Coming," she replied quickly, copying some important phone numbers from his cell phone, including Luna's. During their walk through the city, Daniel made an effort to be the attentive and romantic husband. He bought flowers for Sophia, took photos of them at tourist spots, held her hand lovingly on the cobblestone streets. But Sophia was mentally elsewhere. With each romantic gesture, she planned her next move. "Daniel, can I ask you a question?" she said while they had lunch at a restaurant with a panoramic view. "Of course. Love. Anything. Do you feel professionally fulfilled?" Daniel almost choked on his food. "Why are you asking that?" "Well, I was thinking, now that we're married, maybe my father could give you a better opportunity in the company, a higher position, with more responsibilities." Daniel's eyes shone in a way that made Sophia's stomach churn. "Really? You would do that for me?" "Of course, darling. After all, we're family now. Your success is my success too." Daniel held her hand across the table, his excitement barely disguised. "Sophia, you have no idea how much this means to me. I've always dreamed of working directly with your father, dreamed as if it were a noble aspiration and not a calculated plan to appropriate the family's fortune. So it's settled. When we get back, I'll talk to Dad," Sophia said, watching his face light up completely. That night, back at the chalet, Sophia pretended to be asleep while watching Daniel out of the corner of her eye. He was on the terrace, talking softly on his cell phone, probably with Luna, reporting on the progress of his mission. On the third day, Sophia put the second phase of her plan into action. "Darling, I need to go to town and sort out some banking things," she said during breakfast. "Grandma's inheritance matters. You know how it is. Do you want me to go with you?" Daniel offered. But Sophia noticed he was eager to be alone, probably to talk to Luna without interruption. "No need, love. It's boring bank stuff. You relax by the pool." Sophia drove to town, but she didn't go to the bank. She went straight to a law firm and sought out an attorney specializing in matrimonial law. Dr. Henry Albright was a middle-aged man with decades of experience in divorce and marital infidelity cases. Sophia entered his office determined, but still nervous. "Miss Sophia, how can I help you?" Dr. Albright asked, noticing the still shining wedding ring on her finger. "Doctor, I got married 3 days ago, and I discovered that my husband only married me for financial gain. He has a mistress and plans to use me to access my family's assets." Dr. Albright frowned. "I see, and do you have proof of this, madam?" Sophia showed him the photos she had taken of the conversations on Daniel's phone. Dr. Albright read everything with growing attention. "This is quite serious, Miss Sophia. It constitute matrimonial fraud. But tell me one thing, why didn't you cancel the wedding when you found out?" Sophia took a deep breath. "Because I want him to pay for humiliating me like this. I want him to lose everything, just as I lost. I understand your indignation, but revenge is not something I can legally advise." "It's not revenge, doctor, it's justice. He committed a crime against me. Fraud, as you yourself said." Dr. Albright nodded slowly. "You're right. Legally, we have a solid case. But I must warn you, a process like this can be very emotionally draining. More draining than discovering my entire marriage is a lie? Touché. Very well, let's discuss the options." 2 hours later, Sophia left the office with a detailed plan. Dr. Albright had explained exactly how to proceed to protect her assets and expose Daniel legally. When she returned to the resort, she found Daniel by the pool, exactly as she had imagined. He was on the phone, laughing and talking in an intimate tone. "Hi, honey," Sophia called from across the pool, making Daniel jump and quickly hang up the phone. "Hi, darling. How are things at the bank?" "All sorted. Did you enjoy your day?" "Yes. I relaxed a lot," Daniel lied blatantly. That night, during dinner, Sophia decided to test the extent of Daniel's charade. "Darling, I have a confession to make," she said, assuming a serious expression. Daniel almost dropped his wine glass. "What confession?" I never told you, but I've always had insecurities about our relationship." "Insecurities? Why?" "Sometimes I wonder if you really love me, or if you're with me for other reasons." Daniel's face lost color. "Sophia, how can you think such a thing?" "Of course. I love you. You are the woman of my life." The ease with which he lied was impressive. Sophia almost felt sorry for him. "I know, darling. I'm sorry for doubting. It's just sometimes one gets insecure, right?" "Sophia, look into my eyes," Daniel said, holding her hands across the table. "I love you more than anything in this life. I would never do anything to hurt you." Each word was like a stab in Sophia's heart. How could someone lie with such conviction? "I love you too, Daniel," she replied, forcing tears into her eyes. "Very much." Daniel smiled, clearly relieved to have convinced his wife of his sincerity, but he had no idea that Sophia was recording the entire conversation with an app on her phone. More evidence for the lawsuit that would change his life forever. In the last week of their honeymoon, Sophia already had everything she needed: proof of betrayal, recorded conversations, an experienced lawyer, and a detailed plan of how to destroy the man who had played with her heart. Daniel continued to play the role of the devoted husband, unsuspecting that every lie he told was being carefully documented. "Sophia, these have been the best days of my life," he said on their last night, embracing her on the chalet's balcony. "Mine too," Sophia replied, and for the first time since discovering the betrayal, she wasn't entirely lying, because those had been the days when she had discovered her own strength, her ability to plan, her determination not to be humiliated with impunity. Daniel had created a monster, and he had no idea. The return from the honeymoon marked the beginning of the most dangerous phase of Sophia's plan. They arrived home on a sunny afternoon, and Daniel immediately began to act as if he owned the place. He rearranged some furniture, commented on improvements that could be made, and even suggested they throw a party for friends to celebrate their new home. Sophia watched his every move with a mixture of disgust and fascination. His audacity knew no bounds. "Honey, I already called your father," Daniel announced on the second day, sipping coffee. "I've scheduled lunch to discuss my position in the company." "That's good, darling," Sophia replied, slowly chewing her toast. "I'm sure you two will get along perfectly." Daniel didn't notice the sarcastic tone behind her affectionate words. That same morning, while Daniel was in the shower, Sophia received a call that would change everything. "Miss Sophia, this is Dr. Henry Albright." The lawyer's voice sounded serious on the phone. "I have important news about your case." Sophia quickly went out to the garden, making sure Daniel couldn't hear her. "What did you find out, doctor?" "My private investigator found very interesting information about your husband and this Luna. They've known each other much longer than you imagine." Sophia's heart raced. "What do you mean?" "They were dating before you met Daniel in college. Their relationship never truly ended. He always kept in touch with her, even during the 5 years you two were together." Sophia felt as if she had been punched in the stomach. 5 entire years of betrayal. It hadn't just been financial interest. It had been a complete charade from day one. "Doctor, does this mean that your marriage was planned from the start?" "Yes. Daniel approached you deliberately, probably after discovering who your father was and your family's financial situation." Sophia had to lean against the garden wall to keep from falling. The cruelty of the situation was even worse than she had imagined. She had never had a real chance to be loved by Daniel. Everything had been calculated, premeditated, staged. "Miss Sophia, are you there?" "I am, doctor. Sorry, it's just a lot of information to process. I understand perfectly. But there's more. Luna works for a financial consulting firm. She has access to privileged information about family businesses. It's very likely she helped Daniel plan this entire strategy." Sophia closed her eyes, feeling such intense rage that her vision blurred. It wasn't just Daniel. It was a conspiracy of 2 people to destroy her life and appropriate her family's fortune. "What do we do now, doctor?" "Now we begin the second phase. I'll need you to be very careful from now on. Daniel cannot suspect anything until we are ready to act. Don't worry. He thinks I'm too naive to suspect anything." "Excellent. Use that to your advantage. The more secure he feels, the more evidence he will give us." When Sophia returned inside the house, Daniel was in the living room, working on his laptop. "Who were you talking to in the garden?" he asked casually. But Sophia noticed he had stopped typing to pay attention to her answer. "To Patricia." She wanted to know how the honeymoon was. Sophia lied with a naturalness that surprised her. "Oh, that's great. And what did you tell her?" "That they were the best days of my life with the man I love," Sophia replied, looking directly into his eyes. Daniel smiled, clearly satisfied with the answer. "You're perfect. You know that? Perfect for your plans," Sophia thought. That afternoon, Daniel left to meet some friends, probably Luna, and Sophia took the opportunity to put the next step of her strategy into practice. She called Dr. Robert Miller at his office. "Dad, I need to talk to you about something very important. Can it be today?" "Of course, my daughter. Did something happen? You sound worried." "It's about Daniel and his position in the company. I have some ideas I'd like to discuss in person." An hour later, Sophia was in her father's imposing office, on the top floor of the medical network building. Diplomas and awards covered the walls, reminding everyone that Dr. Robert had built his empire through decades of hard work and dedication. "Dad, Daniel is going to come to you to discuss a better position in the company," Sophia began, carefully choosing her words. "Yes, he already called. He seemed very enthusiastic, Doctor," Robert replied. "I'm thinking of offering him an administrative role. Nothing too high initially, of course. Actually, Dad, I had a different idea. Dr. Robert raised his eyebrows, interested. How about we offer him total access to the company's financial reports? Let him analyze our investments, our expansion strategy, our most important contracts. Sophia, that's very sensitive information. Why do you want to give Daniel so much access right off the bat? Sophia took a deep breath. Because I want to see what he does with that information. I want to test if he truly has the family's interests at heart. Dr. Robert studied his daughter's face for a few seconds. Sophia, is something going on that I need to know? Dad, just give me this opportunity. If in 3 months Daniel proves he deserves our full trust, then we'll know he really is part of the family. But if he does something suspicious with that information, then we'll know what kind of man he really is. Dr. Robert finished, understanding perfectly what his daughter was getting at. Exactly. Dr. Robert nodded slowly. Very well. I'll prepare a test. Daniel will have access to important information, but I'll also set some traps. If he tries to misuse what he discovers, we'll know immediately. Sophia smiled for the first time in days. Thank you, Dad. You won't regret it. When Sophia arrived home, Daniel had already returned from his meeting with friends. He was strangely animated, humming as he prepared a snack in the kitchen. Hi, honey, how was your day? He asked, giving her a kiss on the cheek. Productive. And yours? I met Andrew and Philip. I told him about our conversation with your father. They were quite excited about my prospects at the company. Prospects? Sophia almost laughed at the irony. By the way, Daniel continued, your father called a little while ago. We've scheduled lunch for tomorrow. He seemed very receptive to the idea of giving me more responsibilities. How wonderful, darling. I'm sure you two will get along perfectly. That night, Sophia pretended to be asleep while watching Daniel on the terrace. As usual, he was on the phone, talking softly, but this time, she managed to catch some words. It'll be easier than we imagined. Total access to the files. In a few months, we'll have everything we need. Sophia closed her eyes, feeling a mix of sadness and determination. Daniel was literally planning to steal from her family, and he still had the audacity to sleep beside her every night, as if he were a loving husband. The next day, Daniel got ready with special care for lunch with Dr. Robert. Expensive tie, impeccable suit, shining shoes. He was clearly nervous, but tried to hide it. Wish me luck, he said to Sophia before leaving. Good luck, darling. I'm sure you'll get exactly what you deserve. 3 hours later, Daniel returned home radiant. Sophia! It was better than I imagined, he shouted as soon as he entered. Your father offered me access to the company's most important financial reports. I'll be able to analyze investments, expansion strategies, everything. Really? How incredible, honey. Sophia feigned surprise and joy. Dad truly trusts you. I knew he would eventually realize my potential, Daniel said, hugging Sophia and spinning her around the living room. In a few months, I'll know this company better than anyone. Better than anyone. The words echoed in Sophia's mind like a death knell. When do you start? Monday. Your father said he'll give me my own office and access to the internal systems. Sophia smiled, but inside she was celebrating for completely different reasons. Daniel had just fallen into the most perfect trap she and her father could have created. I'm so proud of you, she whispered in his ear. And for the first time since discovering the betrayal, Sophia was truly happy because she knew that Daniel had just signed his own professional and personal ruin. The war had officially begun, and he had no idea he had already lost. Daniel's first weeks in the new position were a true comedy of errors that Sophia observed from a distance with a mixture of satisfaction and disbelief. He came home every day talking about the important deals he was analyzing, the strategic investments he was studying, and the growth opportunities he had identified. What he didn't know was that every document he accessed, every file he copied, every report he discreetly photographed with his cell phone was being monitored by the most advanced security systems money could buy. Sophia, you have no idea of the scale of your father's business, Daniel commented during dinner on a Thursday, his eyes shining with thinly disguised greed. The Blue Horizon Medical Network has multi-million-dollar contracts with the government, international partnerships, investments in areas I never even imagined. How interesting, darling, Sophia replied, delicately cutting the meat on her plate. Dad has always been very reserved about business details. It's good to know he trusts you enough to share this information. Exactly. And best of all, he said I can take some analyses home to study more carefully on weekends. Sophia almost choked on her food. Daniel was literally confessing that he was stealing confidential information from the family company. His audacity knew no bounds. Wow, How dedicated of you, she managed to say, maintaining an admiring tone. I'm sure Dad will be impressed with your commitment. That same night, after Daniel fell asleep, Sophia discreetly checked his bag. She found 3 to be supply, to be 3, to be supple, to be supple, to be supple, to be found, to be 7 ace, to be find in the London, to be 5 9, to be civil, to be 5, to be 7, information, to be suppen 5. She photographed everything with her cell phone and immediately sent it to Dr. Henry Albright. The response arrived a few minutes later. Miss Sophia, this is pure gold. Your husband is committing crimes that could result in decades in prison. We are ready for the next phase. Sophia felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Relief, because she finally had irrefutable proof of Daniel's true nature. Sadness because it meant that any small hope that she had been wrong about him had vanished forever. The following Friday, Sophia put the riskiest phase of her plan into action. During lunch, she called Daniel at the office. Hi, honey. Everything good at work? Everything's great, darling. I'm analyzing some very interesting contracts. That's good. Listen, I'm calling because I received a strange proposition this morning. What proposition? Sophia took a deep breath. A woman called here at home asking if I was interested in selling information about Dad's company to competitors. Total silence on the other end of the line. Daniel, are you there? Yes. Sorry. That's very serious, Sophia. Industrial espionage is a crime. I know. That's why I refused immediately. But I kept thinking, could someone close to the family be leaking information? Dad has always been so careful with the company's security. No, I don't know, honey. I find it hard to believe. Your father only trusts very close people. That's true. Well, I'm going to tell him about this call when he gets home today. He should know there are people trying to buy information about the company. Wait, Sophia, Daniel quickly said. How about you don't tell him anything for now? I can investigate this discreetly at the office. If someone really is leaking information, it's better we find out who it is before alarming your father. Sophia smiled. Daniel had just dug his own grave. You think so? I don't know. Dad will be very angry if he finds out we hid this from him. Trust me, love. In a week, I'll find out everything. And then we'll tell him with a solution in hand. It will be much better that way. Okay. If you think it's better, I'm sure. And Sophia? Yes. Don't mention this to anyone else, okay? Not even Patricia. The fewer people who know, the better. When Sophia hung up the phone, her hands were trembling, not from nervousness, but from pure rage. Daniel was not only stealing information from the company, but now he was trying to convince her to hide an alleged crime of espionage from her own father. That afternoon, Dr. Robert Miller arrived home earlier than usual. Sophia was waiting for him in the living room with a serious expression. Dad, I need to tell you something important. Dr. Robert sat next to his daughter, immediately noticing her seriousness. What is it, my daughter? Sophia told him about the fake call she had made to Daniel, about his reaction, and about his suggestion to hide everything from Dr. Robert. Interesting, Dr. Robert murmured, his eyes taking on a hardness Sophia had rarely seen. Daniel is not only stealing our information, but now he's trying to manipulate you to cover up imaginary crimes. Dad, I can't take this situation anymore. Discovering that my husband is a criminal is destroying me inside. Dr. Robert placed his hand on his daughter's shoulder. Sophia, I already suspected something was wrong. Daniel has been asking very specific questions about areas of the company that shouldn't interest someone in his position, and our monitoring system has flagged several attempts by him to access files outside his authorization. What are we going to do? Tomorrow is Saturday. Daniel will be home, right? Yes, perfect. I'll show up here in the morning with an irresistible offer for him. Let's see how far your husband's ambition goes. On Saturday morning, Daniel was in the garden having coffee when Dr. Robert unexpectedly appeared. Sophia watched from the kitchen window, her heart beating fast. Robert, what a surprise. Daniel quickly stood up, clearly nervous about the unexpected visit. Want some coffee? I'll take some. Thank you. Actually, Daniel, I came here because I have a very special proposition for you. Daniel's eyes lit up. What kind of proposition? I'm considering retiring in the next few years and passing on the company's administration to someone in the family. Sophia isn't interested in the business, so I was thinking of preparing you to take my place. Sophia saw Daniel literally tremble with emotion. He tried to hide it, but it was obvious that those were exactly the words he dreamed of hearing. Robert, I don't know what to say. It's a huge honor, but there's one condition, Doctor. Robert continued, his voice taking on a more serious tone. I need to be absolutely sure I can trust you. That's why I'm going to give you access to the most confidential documents in the company. Contracts that not even Sophia knows about. Information that could destroy or save our company, depending on how it's used. Daniel could barely hide his excitement. You can count on me completely, Robert. I swear on my life I'll guard these secrets as if they were my own. Excellent. Monday you will receive a package of documents that cannot leave the office under any circumstances. Not for home, not anywhere. And Daniel? Yes. If I find out these documents have been shared with anyone, even my own daughter, consider our partnership terminated. Understood? Perfectly. You can trust me. Doctor, Robert smiled and shook Daniel's hand. I hope so, my son. I hope so. When Dr. Robert left, Daniel entered the house in a state of total euphoria. Sophia, your father just offered me the leadership of the company, he shouted, picking her up and spinning her around the living room. In a few years, I'll be the president of the Blue Horizon Medical Network. Sophia forced an expression of joy and surprise. Really? How wonderful, honey. Dad really trusts you a lot. He said he'll give me access to the most important documents in the company. Information that not even you know about. The way Daniel said those words, with an almost malicious pride, made Sophia's stomach churn. He was clearly feeling superior to her, as if he had finally managed to deceive the entire family. I'm so proud of you, Sophia lied, giving him an affectionate kiss. But inside, she knew that Daniel had just agreed to participate in his own execution. The confidential documents he would receive on Monday were a trap so perfect that not even the smartest criminal could escape. Daniel thought he had won. He thought that soon he would be rich and powerful, free to live his great love with Luna, at the expense of the family he had betrayed. He had no idea that Monday would be the last day of his life as a free man. Monday arrived, laden with a tension Sophia could feel in the air. Daniel woke up earlier than usual, took a long shower, and chose his best clothes, as if preparing for the coronation of his life. During breakfast, he could barely hide his anxiety. Today's the big day, he said, adjusting his tie for the third time. I'll finally have access to the information that really matters at the company. Sophia watched his every move with a mixture of fascination and pity. How could someone be so blinded by their own greed? Part of her, a small and stubborn part that still remembered the man she had met in college, almost felt like warning him about the trap that awaited him. Daniel, she said softly, placing her hand over his on the table. Are you sure this is what you want? All this responsibility? All this pressure? Daniel stopped fiddling with his tie and looked at her confused. Of course, I'm sure. Why are you asking that? It's just sometimes I wonder if we aren't happier the way we are. Simple, uncomplicated. Have you ever thought that perhaps the life we have now is enough? For a fleeting moment, Sophia saw something different in Daniel's eyes. A hesitation, a shadow of doubt. Perhaps there was still a small human part in him, a part that recognized he was about to cross a line that should not be crossed. But the moment quickly passed. Sophia, love. Daniel held her hands, his voice taking on the condescending tone she had learned to hate. You don't understand how the business world works. To grow, to secure our future, we need to think big. Your father is offering me a unique opportunity. It would be foolish to waste it. What if it goes wrong? What if? Oh, it won't go wrong, Daniel interrupted her, kissing her forehead with a condescension that made her stomach churn. Trust me, I know exactly what I'm doing. As Sophia washed the dishes after breakfast, she felt a tear stream down her face. It wasn't a tear of sadness for the betrayal. That pain she had already processed. It was a tear of mourning for the definitive death of the man she had loved, or thought she loved. The Daniel who gave her kisses on the forehead and promised to take care of her no longer existed. Perhaps he never had. At 9 a.m., the phone rang. It was Dr. Henry Albright. Miss Sophia, all set for today? Yes, doctor. Daniel left a little while ago, more anxious than a child on Christmas morning. Perfect. Our people are already in position. As soon as he tries to leave the company with the fake documents, we'll have all the evidence we need. And then, Miss Sophia, your husband will discover that underestimating an intelligent woman was the biggest mistake of his life. At 10 a.m., Sophia received a call from Patricia. Sophia, we need to talk in person now. Pat, what happened? You sound nervous. I'm at the mall near your house. Can you come here? It's about Daniel. 30 minutes later, Sophia found Patricia sitting in a coffee shop, clearly agitated. Sophia, I didn't know if I should tell you this, but what is it, Pat? Last Saturday, I was downtown when I saw Daniel entering an apartment. It wouldn't be a big deal if it weren't for the fact that he was accompanied by a brunette woman. Sophia felt her heart race. Luna, you know her. She's his mistress. I already knew about her, Pat. Patricia's eyes widened. "And you didn't do anything?" "I'm doing something today." Sophia quickly told her best friend about the entire plan she had concocted with Dr. Albright and her father. Patricia listened in silence, her expression changing from concern to admiration. "My God, Sophia, you've transformed into a different person. The naive Sophia died on our wedding day, Pat. This is me now. And are you sure this is what you want? To completely destroy Daniel's life?" Sophia looked out the coffee shop window, watching normal people living their normal lives. People who hadn't been betrayed on the most important day of their lives. People who hadn't discovered that 5 years of a relationship had been a cruel and calculated lie. "Pat, do you know what hurts me the most? It's not even the fact that he doesn't love me. It's the fact that he thought I was so stupid, so inferior, that he didn't even bother to hide it properly. Daniel never respected me as a person. To him, I was always just an object to be used." Patricia held her friend's hand. "And now he's going to find out who I really am." At noon, Sophia received a message from Dr. Robert Miller. Package delivered. Daniel seemed more interested than a child with a new toy. At 2 p.m., another message. "Our bird tried to photograph confidential documents 3 times. Security system recorded everything." At 4 p.m., the message Sophia had been waiting for. "He's leaving the building with a folder that should have stayed in the vault." This is it. Sophia closed her eyes and took a deep breath. After weeks of planning, the moment had arrived. The phone rang at 5:15 p.m. "Miss Sophia, this is Dr. Albright. We have him. How did it go?" "Perfect." Daniel was intercepted leaving the company with confidential documents, 3 USB drives with stolen information, and to top it off, he was on his way to Luna's apartment. Our investigator managed to record his conversation with her, where he literally boasted about stealing family secrets. Sophia slowly sat on the living room sofa, feeling a strange mix of relief and emptiness. "And now, doctor? Now the police have been called. Daniel is being interrogated at this moment. With the evidence we have, he could face 5 to 15 years for industrial espionage, matrimonial fraud, and attempted misappropriation of funds." 15 years, Sophia repeated, still processing the information. "Miss Sophia, there's something else you need to know." "What?" "Luna isn't just his mistress. She works for a competitor of the Blue Horizon Medical Network. They were literally selling your family's secrets to your biggest rivals in the market." Sophia closed her eyes. It wasn't just personal betrayal. It was corporate, familial, financial betrayal. Daniel had not only played with her heart, he had tried to destroy the legacy of decades of her father's work. At 6 p.m., Dr. Robert Miller arrived home. Sophia was in the living room, still trying to process everything that had happened. "My daughter," he said, sitting beside her, "is everything all right?" "Yes, Dad. I still can't believe we did it. Sophia, I need to apologize." She looked at him surprised. "Why?" "For not realizing earlier what kind of man he was. For letting him get so close to our family. For not protecting you." Sophia hugged her father, feeling tears stream down her face. "Dad, no one could have predicted this. Daniel deceived all of us, but you were smarter than him. You caught him?" "We caught him, Dad. Together." That night, Sophia was alone for the first time in months. Daniel was detained, awaiting the judicial process that would change his life forever. Luna had also been arrested as an accomplice. Sophia walked through the house she had shared with Daniel, observing objects that once represented their life together, the wedding photos on the wall, the gifts they had received, the renovation projects they had planned. Everything seemed to belong to another life, another person. Her cell phone rang. It was Patricia. "Sophia, how are you?" "Strange, Pat. Free, but strange. It's like I've lived in a prison for so long that now I don't know what to do with freedom." "And what do you want to do?" Sophia looked out the window, watching the stars in the night sky. For the first time in weeks, she could think of something beyond revenge and justice. "I want to live, Pat. I want to discover who I am when I'm not being manipulated, deceived, or underestimated. I want to know the Sophia who survived all this. And you will. You are much stronger than you imagine." When she hung up the phone, Sophia looked at herself in the hall mirror. The woman looking back was different from the naive bride who had discovered the betrayal weeks ago. Her eyes had a determination that hadn't existed before, a strength that had been forged in pain and tempered in struggle. Daniel had thought he knew her. He had underestimated her intelligence, her ability to plan, her inner strength. He had bet on the Sophia who existed before the betrayal. The Sophia who trusted blindly, who loved without questioning, who believed in people without verifying. That Sophia had died in the garden of the Divine Providence Chapel. The Sophia who had been born in her place was someone completely different. someone Daniel had never imagined could exist. And this new Sophia was only just beginning to discover what she was capable of. 3 months had passed since Daniel's arrest, and Sophia still surprised herself waking up every morning with a sense of freedom she hadn't experienced in years. The house was silent, but it was a different silence, no longer laden with lies and tension, but with infinite possibilities. The trial had taken place the previous week, and the sentence was even harsher than Dr. Albright had predicted. Daniel received 12 years in prison for industrial espionage, matrimonial fraud, and conspiracy. Luna received 8 years as an accomplice. The rival company that had tried to buy the secrets of the Blue Horizon medical network was facing a multi-million-dollar lawsuit that would likely lead to its bankruptcy. Sophia was on the balcony of her new home, an elegant apartment downtown that she had bought with her own money, when Patricia arrived with a bottle of champagne and a radiant smile. "Sophia, did you see the news?" "What news?" "The Institute of Women Entrepreneurs wants to invite you to give talks on how to identify abusive and manipulative relationships." Sophia almost dropped her coffee cup. "Seriously? Completely serious? They said your story has become an example of how a woman can recover from devastating betrayal and transform pain into strength." In recent months, against all expectations, Sophia's story had become public. Initially, she had tried to keep everything confidential, but when other similar cases began to appear in the media, she decided to share her experience to help other women in similar situations. "Pat, I still can't believe how my life has changed. Sometimes I feel like I'm living someone else's life." "You are living your life, Sophia, for the first time in years. You are truly being yourself." Patricia was right. In recent months, Sophia had discovered aspects of her personality she didn't even know existed. Her leadership ability, her business acumen, her emotional strength that had remained hidden for years under Daniel's subtle manipulation. "By the way," Patricia continued, "how was your meeting with your father yesterday?" Sophia smiled. "Incredible. He offered me a position on the company's board of directors. Are you going to accept?" "I already have. I'll start as the Director of Human Resources, with a special focus on creating protocols to identify employees who may pose internal security risks." It was ironic, but perfectly fitting. Who better than Sophia to develop systems that would prevent other Daniels from infiltrating family businesses? The intercom rang, interrupting their conversation. Sophia answered, surprised to hear an unknown "I read about your story in the newspaper. Could I speak with you, please?" Sophia looked at Patricia, who nodded encouragingly. "Of course. Come up. Apartment 1204. Minutes later, a woman around 30 years old was sitting in Sophia's living room, her hands trembling as she held a cup of tea. Michelle told a story that was eerily familiar. A charming husband who had approached her after discovering her family owned a prosperous company, years of subtle emotional manipulation, and recent suspicions that he was stealing confidential information from her family's business. "Sophia, I read all about your case. How did you find the strength to act? How did you know you were doing the right thing?" Sophia looked at Michelle, seeing in her eyes the same fear and confusion she herself had felt months ago. "Michelle, the first thing you need to understand is that it's not your fault. People like our husbands are experts in manipulation. They choose intelligent and kind women because they know we are less likely to suspect their true intentions. But what if I'm wrong? What if he really loves me? If he truly loved you, you wouldn't be here with these doubts, with this fear. True love doesn't generate this kind of constant anxiety." Patricia watched Sophia talk to Michelle, impressed by her friend's transformation. The insecure, manipulated woman had become someone capable of offering strength and guidance to others. Sophia spent the next hour helping Michelle develop a plan. She gave her doctor, Henry Albright's contact information, explained how to document evidence safely, and, most importantly, assured her that she was not alone. "Michelle, you have my number. Call me whenever you need, at any time. Promise?" "I promise." "Sophia, thank you. You saved me today." After Michelle left, Patricia looked at Sophia with an expression of maternal pride. "You know you've become a symbol, right? A symbol of what? Of the possibility of rising from the ashes, of how a betrayed woman can become stronger than she ever imagined." That night, Sophia was alone in her apartment, organizing the divorce papers, which had finally been finalized. Officially, she was free. Free from Daniel, free from the lies, free from the version of herself that she had allowed to be diminished for so long. Her cell phone rang. It was Dr. Robert Miller. "Daughter, did you see today's newspaper?" "No." "Why?" "There's an article about you in the business section. The heiress who became her own heroine. It's worth reading." After hanging up, Sophia found the article online. The journalist had interviewed several people who knew her story, including Dr. Albright, some colleagues from the company, and even employees who had witnessed Daniel's suspicious behavior. The article ended with a sentence that made Sophia's eyes well up with tears. Sophia Miller proved that the greatest revenge against those who underestimate us is not destruction, but transformation. She not only survived betrayal, she flourished beyond anything her tormentors could have imagined. Weeks later, Sophia was in the main auditorium of the State Business University, about to give her first public lecture. The topic was personal reconstruction after relational trauma, and she had been invited to speak to an audience of over 500 people. Backstage, she felt the same nervousness she had felt on her wedding day with Daniel. But this time, the nervousness was different. It wasn't fear of disappointment or inadequacy. It was the excitement of being about to share something that could genuinely help other people. "Sophia, are you ready?" asked the event organizer. "I am." Sophia walked onto the stage and looked at the sea of faces before her. Women of all ages, some visibly emotional, others curious, many clearly identifying with her story. "Good morning," she began, her voice firm and clear. "My name is Sophia, and a few months ago, I was a woman who believed her worth depended on being loved by a man who, in truth, despised her." A murmur of identification swept through the audience. "Today, I am here to tell you that no matter how far you have fallen, no matter how manipulated or diminished you feel, there is a strength within you that is far greater than anyone who tries to control you." The lecture lasted an hour and a half. Sophia told her complete story, from the discovery of the betrayal to the present moment. She spoke about pain, about anger, about the temptation of destructive revenge, and about how she had chosen to channel all that energy into personal growth and constructive justice. "The greatest lesson I learned," she said, concluding the lecture, "is that no one can diminish us without our permission. Daniel thought he knew me, but he only knew the version of me I had allowed him to see. The real woman, the strong woman, has always been here. She just needed to be awakened." The applause was deafening. Sophia saw tears in the eyes of many women in the audience, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of recognition, of hope, of strength. After the lecture, dozens of people approached to talk to Sophia. Each story was different, but the central theme was the same. Women discovering they were much stronger than they imagined. An older woman, around 60, held Sophia's hands and said, "Darling, you gave me the courage to leave a 30-year marriage where I was treated like furniture. Thank you for showing me it's never too late to start over." That night, Sophia was in her apartment, reflecting on the day. Patricia was with her, helping to respond to the dozens of emails from women who wanted to share their own stories. "Sophia, do you realize the movement you've created?" "What movement?" "Just look at these emails. Women from all over the country telling how your story inspired them to take action in their own lives. You are literally changing lives." Sophia looked out her apartment window, observing the illuminated city below. Each light represented a life, a story, a person trying to find their way in the world. "Pat, remember when you asked me if I was sure I wanted to destroy Daniel's life?" "I remember. Today I realize it was never about destroying his life. It was about building my own. And what a life you've built, my friend." Sophia smiled, feeling a deep peace she hadn't experienced in years. Perhaps she had never experienced it. Daniel had tried to use her kindness against her, to turn her trust into weakness, her generosity into naivety. But in the end, it was precisely that kindness, that inner strength he had tried to diminish, that became the foundation of her greatest victory. She had not only survived betrayal, she had grown through it. She had become someone she didn't even know she could be. And most importantly, she had discovered that her happiness had never depended on Daniel or anyone else. She had always carried within herself everything she needed to be complete. Sophia Miller had found her own way back home, and this time she was both the hero and the savior of her own story.